Before we start enrolling, the first thing you need to do is create a new profile for your learner. I'm just going to take an existing learner. So once you have the learner profile, all you have to do is action and click enroll. Usually with vet student loan, you're only going to enroll one by one because there are too many things that can change against the student and all that. You can do bulk enrollments, it's up to you, but still you'll have to come into every student and change the details accordingly. Now, there's one thing that I forgot to show you. Let me just go back a step. Now, against the profile of the student, if you go into the demographic information, at the very bottom, you're going to see some fee help data. Now, all these fields are not mandatory. The only mandatory field for vet student loan is the Indigenous status, the citizen resident, and the year arrived in Australia. So these are the three main fields that are required, and you have to complete this before you can enroll the student into the course, because that's crucial information for the ECAF. The ECAF can only be sent to students who are eligible for vet student loan, and for them to have eligibility, they have to be either an Australian citizen or a New Zealand citizen or a humanitarian visa. So choose accordingly. In this case, I'm going to put it as an Australian citizen. I'll explain why when we go into the enrollment, and because I'm just going to leave that blank. Now, when you leave the year arrived in Australia blank, we automatically report whatever is required for a person born in Australia. If the student has actually arrived in Australia and then become a citizen, then you have to put in the year arrived in Australia. Otherwise, if the country of birth is Australia, then we automatically report the default value for you. All right, now let's go and enroll. Let's go enroll learners. So I'm going to just quickly go through this. So we'll put the student as current, study mode is full-time, start and end date, that's automatically picked up from the course offer, but because it's a rolling intake, if the date is any different, you have to change the dates accordingly. Then you have an enrollment date. Now, the enrollment date is used for ECAF purposes because you can't send the student to ECAF until 2 days after the enrollment date. The enrollment date is the day the student first enrolled into your organization, all right? So let's say, even though the course is starting on the 1st of July, it doesn't matter. Today is the 24th of May. So I'm just going to go 24th of May. So once we put that date in, you need to wait for 2 business days. And when I say 2 business days, if he's enrolling today, we need to wait for Friday, Monday, so you can send the ECAF information only on Tuesday, right? And they're very strict about it, and our system also validates this. If you try sending the ECAF tomorrow, it's going to give you an error saying that you have not waited for the 2 cooling off period days. So it's going to give you a warning. So just ensure that you always wait for those 2 days. Now, after this, I'll be talking about some learn cycles and automation where you can allow the system to task you, so you don't have to remember to send this out manually. And I'll explain more about how you can put this as a task in the learn cycles, all right? So for now, the enrollment date is the day the student first enrolled into your organization. So within this course, basically, I've taken that as a new learner. And then you put in the study reason because we left that at the course offer level. Scroll down, complete the vet student loan bit. Now, under the compliance, there's a field called access vet student loan or vet fee help. I'm going to leave that blank. The only reason being we don't know if the student is going to be approved for vet student loan, and you will know that only after the student has submitted the ECAF application and it's been processed. So for now, all we need to do is tick the eligibility on. The estimated yearly Fs is 1. The student is a commencing student. Put in a fee type indicator, the admission basis. For all your vet courses, it's going to be 34. The attendance type, whether it's full-time or part-time. And the study reason, unfortunately, these 2 codes are different. So you have to choose them twice for avidness as well as ECAF purposes. All right? So once you put in the vet student loan information, now at this point in time, you can basically save and finish. You don't have to put the student into the unit of study unless they've come back as an approved. But let's say the student is eligible but not taking wet student loan, then it's a different scenario. You have to enroll them into the unit of study. So I'm going to go ahead and save and choose unit enrollments. Put the student into that unit of study, confirm, and save and finish. So now we have completed the enrollment process. Now that I've completed the enrollment, all I have to do is manage the enrollment. But if you're on a premium edition, obviously you have learn cycles and things that you can use to manage these enrollments and automate certain things for you. So when you click on learn cycle against the course offer, the main two things that you really require is, of course, reminding you about that ECAF, and then sending out your confirmation of enrollment and statement of covered fees. So there are a couple ways of doing it, So let's say when you take the enrollment in, you may choose to put the status as pending. So I'm just going to quickly change the status to a pending to give you an option of what you can do with the learn cycles. So let's say, you enroll the student with the status of pending. Against the learn cycle, you can tell the system action, add learn cycle activity. As soon as the enrollment is created, you want to create a task, and the task could be called send ECAF. Priority is high because you don't want to miss that task. By default, it's going to be not started. But you don't want to immediately trigger the task. You want to trigger the task 2 days after the course enrollment start date. So let's say for example, you've put in the start date of today. So now you may ask the question, because it needs to trigger from the enrollment date. That's the kind of the ECAP census date that you have for the student. So you have to send it 2 days after the enrollment date. At the moment, we don't have the enrollment date as part of the learn cycles. As you can see, it's something that we are building and it's not released yet. So for the moment, what we usually do is, if you don't have the start date as the same as the enrollment date, we kind of ask you to use the trigger conditions reached, which means it's going to put in the task for you 2 days after the enrollment is created. All right. And you want to assign it to the staff member who's responsible to send that ECAF out. And you can put in more information as required and go save. So that's going to sit within the learn cycle. The next activity that you want to do is not when the course enrollment is created, but when the status changes to current, you want to send a message out to the student with the message template. It could be confirmation of enrollment or statement of covered fees. You could have your own email templates. It's created exactly the way I showed you for the Canon invoice. You want to send it to each and every learner and custom schedule it, again, if required. Otherwise, as soon as you change it to the current, you can send it out. Now, this is what you can do if you're on, if you don't want to create like a Europort template or anything for your statement of covered fees and you have all that information in an email. But if you want to send out the statement of covered fees as a Europort document, then you need to choose the third option. So instead of you sending out a message, you can go generate a Europort. So the template type is going to be contracts. You choose the statement of covered fees, and then you choose the message template called confirmation of enrollment. When you do this, what happens is it generates the statement of covered fees as well as sends an email out to the student with the confirmation of enrollment. So the confirmation of enrollment is just going to be the body of the email, and the statement of covered fees is going to be an attachment within that email. All right. So let's say you want to send it to every learner immediately when the trigger condition is reached. If you have any course information guides and things that you want to send to them, you can even add that on and go save. So these two learn cycles are kind of mandatory, but as I said, for you to complete the statement of covered fees when the status changes to current, you definitely need to be on a premium edition. Tasking yourself to send the ECAF when the course enrollment is created, you can definitely do that, even on a standard edition. And probably you could have another task to say, by the start date or a week before the start date, just to check if you can send the statement of covered fee. So you can custom schedule that if required, if you're on a standard edition. Once you have this in place within the course offer, as soon as you enroll the client, this will be triggered. Now, sending the Ecap out. To send the Ecap out, you need to go into the course enrollment for that student, click edit, scroll down. Now, as I said, you have to ensure the cooling off period has been completed before you send the data to Ecap. When you click on send to Ecap, it'll automatically send out the application to Ecap. Now, the automated process is only available if the student is an Australian citizen. If the student is on a humanitarian visa or is a New Zealand citizen, then at the moment you still have to manually submit your data to Ecap. So you have to go into the Ecap and then submit the Ecap manually for those students. And obviously you're going to get the Ecap ID, the status and everything. So you just have to put that information in here and then save. If it's an Australian citizen, you don't have to do any of this. It'll automatically send the application to Ecap for you. All right, so that's with the Ecap. Now the last bit is about changing the unit of study fields when there's a credit or an RPL or when the student is completing their course. So if you go into unit enrollments, click into unit of study enrollments. So let's say the student has applied for a credit transfer or an RPL. Now, for the credit transfer, there's no specific process, that's published anywhere for vet student loans. For RPL, definitely there are certain things that you have to remember. But for credit, you could be offering a credit on just a couple units within a unit of study. So it's best when you kind of, just discount the amount. So let's say, for example, in this case, I'm taking the student to have access vet student loan in this case. So the student hasn't paid anything up front. So there's a help debt incurred. But let's say the student has been given like $1,000 discount and he's applied for a credit transfer against one of the units. So what you do is under the other payments, you change that to 1,000. So that's a discounted amount. And in the payment notes, just put in discount 1 unit credit transfer. So you know exactly why you've discounted that $1,000. So then what the system does is it auto calculates the loan amount to be 2,000. So it's discounted 1,000 of the total 3,000 the unit of study fee, applied the 20% discount and calculated the help debt for you. So this is when you have given a credit transfer. When it is an RPL, it's a little different because for the RPL, it depends whether the unit of study is completely RPL or if it is, if just a component of it is RPL. So in that case, you need to choose the rest of the fields accordingly. So let's say the credit or RPL status is 200. So you've offered the RPL for the prior batch study. You've accepted the RPL and it consists wholly of RPL. You put in rest of the details in here. The completion status is going to be a number 5, which is RPL. Now, because I have, put in like a fee of $0 for the RPL against the unit of study, it's going to show me 0 in there. And obviously this is not in here. And by default, everything just becomes 0. So you apply these fields only when the entire unit of study is RPL. Right? If only a couple units have been given as an RPL, then ensure that you don't change any of these.